Hi everyone, Laura here for our weekly Facebook Live at Freedom Makers. I hope you're having a great week. Sorry I was a few minutes late. A call went kind of long, but that's what happens when you are a business owner. All right, so today we're going to share with you the number one tip for effectively using a virtual assistant. And dun dun dun, drum roll, are you ready for it? It is expectations. Now you might think that I'm talking about setting expectations, which is a part of it, but it's also probably more important to determine what your expectations are. So for instance, if you want someone who's going to be there for you at right when you need them, then maybe a VA is not the right person for you, because a VA by definition will be supporting multiple clients, right? Because a VA is a skilled worker who is very flexible. And so they're going to have multiple clients that they are supporting, which means they're not going to be able to answer the phone or respond to a text or email right when you send it. And so you have to be mindful of that. So if your expectation is that you want someone who's there right when you need them, you might want to consider an employee over a VA, because an employee is going to be there working with you during those set hours. Another thing might be that if you hire a VA, you say, okay, every Tuesday and Thursday from 10 to 2, I want you dedicated solely to me. And that way they are there right when you need them during those hours. The key thing though is you got to be willing to pay them for all those hours. It's not really fair to say to someone, I want you available in case I need you, which means you can't do work for anyone else just in case I need you, and not pay them for that. So it might be a different rate from when they're actually working or whatever, but just know that that's not fair on your part to want someone who's there waiting for you and you're not paying them for it. Another thing is, maybe are you someone who works on a whim? You're not a big planner, you have this idea and you're like, oh, you know what? It'd be great if my VA could take care of this. And I haven't even thought it through, but it's just a neat idea and I want them to run with it. And that's okay too, but then you probably want to find a VA who's comfortable with that kind of ambiguity, who's going to be willing to sort of weed it through and figure it out without much guidance from you. And so if that's the kind of person, how you operate, then when you're finding a VA, you got to find someone who can meet those expectations. But if you have someone who's very much like, I need steps 1, 2, and 3, and it's because that's the kind of organization I like and how I approach work, then they're not going to be a good fit for someone who works on a whim. So just something to think about, that if you are someone who works on a whim, that you have to determine that that's your expectation, that someone else can handle that. Or maybe not, or also if you're systems oriented. If you have built systems and you have step-by-step ways that you want things done or tasks completed in your business, then you have to find someone who's willing to follow your system, right? Because you might have a system, but you could find someone who's like, yeah, that's great, my way's better, I'm going to do it my way. Not necessarily anything wrong with that, unless it's going to drive you up the wall. So that's what I mean by determining your expectations. Like if you want someone who can follow your system, then you got to find someone who's willing to follow your system. And then finally, do you have trust issues? If you are too nervous to let things go, then you're not really, you have to have that expectation, or know that that's your expectation, that you're only going to give very minuscule tasks to someone else and you're going to watch them like a hawk. But there are 2 ways to deal with this. One, hire a coach or a consultant or a therapist or counselor to help you work through whatever your trust issues are. And 2, delegate things at a very small, like a very specific one-step task that you can have someone else to do, that you can let go of, just that's one small little thing. And so we like to quote Michael Hyatt's 5 levels of delegation. We quote that often out here at Freedom Makers. And so basically what we're saying is only delegate level 1 tasks if you do have trust issues. So that's one side of the number one tip for effectively using a VA, is determining what your expectations are. So once you've determined those, then you can use that to find the right VA. And once you found the right VA, you can use the other side of that, which is set those expectations with your VA. So that comes around to some basic questions, right? Like, what do you want them to accomplish? So train them on that specific task or that system of tasks done. By when? What do you want them to do and by when? That might be a regularly standing deadline, like, okay, every Friday you need to compile this report and send it to me. Or anytime I send you a task, I want it done within 1 business day, generally speaking, unless otherwise stated. So you want to have those like regular deadlines, generally accepted deadlines, unless explicitly stated elsewhere. So you want to talk to them about that. Then also, how do you want them to communicate with you? Do you prefer phone calls? Do you hate phone calls? Do you prefer text message? Do you hate text message? Or email? Do you prefer email over text or Slack or whatever, all these different communication tools out there? The main thing that I try to divide them up is phone, instant, or email. So what's the way that you prefer? And you got to set that expectation with them that that's how they need to communicate with you. And then once you have those, you can, of course, create set it and forget it systems. And as you get to trust them more, you can have them take over more and more of the set it and forget it system. So that's our tip for today. Number 1 tip for effectively using a VA is expectations. 2 sides of that coin. One is determining what your expectations are, and once you know them, setting them with your VA. All right, hope you're having a good week. We'll see you next week. Continue to have a great July, and wishing you all the best. Thanks. Bye.